Hey, what is up YouTube? TemperrQuake here again, and today I'm going to be discussing why isn't Dark World the greatest deck. You would think that Dark World is the greatest deck because you can do multiple things. You can take out your opponent's best hand and pop the field, and you still plus off of your discards. Now, I think Dark World was a totally new innovation to the game because you actually want to discard your cards and get your cards into the graveyard so you can do broken combos, OTKs. It's really easy to do an OTK with the Dark World deck. It's similar to the wind-up loop, but I think the wind-up is just more consistent. Dark World is tier 2 definitely. I would put Dark World tier 2. But it's the reason why I don't think it's the greatest is because you can side a lot against it, like DD Crow. You can side in Macro, you can side in Fissure. All these cards, I think, are kind of broken in a sense, because once you get rid of the best cards in the game, it's not really that great anymore. Now, of course, you have Levier, so you can still bring some back. But once you get rid of your 3 Graphas, it's basically game, unless you're running Trans Archfiend, which I don't know very many people that are. I think just Dark World overall is a good deck, it's just, it doesn't have enough support. As in, if you open Macro first turn, you open Fissure first turn, it's pretty much your game. Unless Dark World tops a Mystic Space Typhoon or Heavy Storm. Other than that, you basically got the game. I think Dark World could be competitive if they hit Macro. Fissure I don't think is too big of a problem because you can prepare for it, whereas to Macro they can just chain it. Let's just say you play Card Destruction, right? And then they play they just do nonsense and they chain Macro, and it's just like whatever. You can't fight Macro. Macro is probably the most overpowered card in the game right now. I think if the ban list is going to go up, and I really do think Macro is going to get hit to 2 or possibly even 1. So then people are going to start having to side in Fissures and main Fissures and all that nonsense. But anyways, what I was saying is that Dark World is a great deck if you look at it. It has a 27 beater that doesn't go away. It has a searcher, it has a drawer, it has everything. It has defense, and it has high attack monsters, and it has cards that stop spells, stop traps, and cards that stop monsters with 1500 attack or less. The only thing this deck is missing is Crush Card Virus, which is probably never going to come back off the ban list. But the day that does is the day that Dark World, I promise you, will reign supreme. I started competitive play with Dark World. I've always loved the deck. It was always a fun deck. Sometimes you got subpar hands, but it's a very controlled deck. But sometimes you can overdo it and then just get your whole day ruined. But I mean, if you think about it, I think Dark World can compare to the Fire Fist. You'll have a high attack monster coming back every round, and you'll always have that popping ability. You always have that. Oh, I'll always have 1 card in my hand because I can plus off of Grapha a million times over again. And then you're running a field spell, which not a lot of decks do, so you don't have to worry about it being sent to the graveyard. Of course, people are going to MST, but it's kind of a waste because there's other cards in the Dark World deck I think are more powerful. Like, sometimes people like to run the trap version. I personally like to run a lot of traps. That's just how I am. I've never liked no traps. I like my TTs, I like my D-Prisons and all that nonsense. But I find me playing the defensive, more controlled version of Dark World, I find it that I draw a lot better than if I'm playing the Turbo. I just don't like the Turbo for multiple reasons. It's very uncontrolled. It can have really weird hands, and I mean, yes, having 3 Upstart Goblins like having 37 cards in your deck, but you gotta think. Sometimes you don't want to give your opponent that extra 1,000 life points just for shits and giggles. I mean, although if you get that card destruction or something, it's pretty much game for that guy. It's still not worth the chance, because what if you pull another monster and you don't pull a discard outlet? So I think the reason why Dark Worlds aren't so great is because they're easy to side against. There's a lot of cards that can just make the deck lose. and I just think it has subpar hands. But other than that, if you take away the sides, if first game will probably always be the Dark World wins, because I mean, unless you're playing a Macro Rabbit, you should have no problem beating them. Unless you're playing, of course, a what's it called, an anti-meta deck. But other than that, really, windups, a lot of them don't main D-Fisher. Just play Silva or Snow with Gates on the field. Flip Deck Devastation Virus. That's game for them because all their monsters are 1500 attack or less. And then you have decks like even Dino Macro Rabbit. I mean, if they don't pull Macro Rabbit first turn, you take away their Rabbit and their Tour Guide. It's your game. There's just multiple things you can do with the deck at first game that makes it so great. But then again, that second game is always the hardest match because you don't know what they're going to be siding in. But that's why you can sign in Iron Imperial Walls. Yes, you won't be able to get your draws from Gates of the Dark World, but that's just why you have to rely on other discard outlets. That's why I run a monster effect heavy deck instead of a spell. Like, I have the standard spells. I have my own traps. I like to tech in my own cards. But I just don't think people understand how good Dark World is. So guys, I hope you enjoy my little rant on why Dark World isn't the best right now, but once it gets a few more support cards, it will become the best. Please like, subscribe, comment. I hope you enjoy this, and peace.